Jaya Radha Mata Alva Kunya Vihari Shrimad, His Divine Grace, Abhaya Charanada Bhaktivedanta Goswami, Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai, ISKCON, Founder Acharya, Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai, Anantakoti, Voice, Now Vrinda Jai, Namacharya, Srila Sthapu Jai. Friends say, Oh Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shivaya Gadadhar Vasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Jai Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gaur Jai Makunda, Radhakunda, Ki Govardhan Ki Jai, Vrindavan Ki Jai, Maturam Ki Jai, Jagat Goswami Ki Jai, Yamai Ki Jai, Shimani Lasi Devi Ki Jai, Samveda Bhakta Vrindi Ki Jai, Gaur Premananda Hari 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 Bol. All glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to Shri Guru and Gauranga Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai, Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prastaya Murli, Shrimati Bhaktivedanta Swami Namani Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pacharani Visesha Srinivadi Paschatya Desha Tarane. So we are reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, first canto, second chapter, text 32. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Yata He Avahito Mandir Darushu. Everybody has it? Okay. Eka Swa Yonishu Naneva Vati Vishvatma Bhuteshu Cha Tata Puman Yataya Vagito Vandir Varushveka Svanyonishu Naneva Bhati Vishvatma Bhuteshu Cha Tata Puman Yataya Vahito Vanir Darushveka Svajonishu Naneva Bhakti Vishvatma Bhuteshu Chatata Puman Yataya Vahito Vanir Darushveka Svajonishu Naneva Bhakti Vishvatma Bhuteshu Chatata Puman. Okay. All right. Just one word about Sanskrit pronunciation. When you have a consonant at the end of a word in the middle of a line, you know what a consonant is? No, you don't know what a consonant is. There's two things, two letters, two types of letters. One is a consonant, the other one's a vowel. You've heard of that before? Uh-oh. Oh my God. So a vowel is A-E-I-O-U. Vowel. 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 And a consonant is the rest of the letters. You understand? In every language it's like that. You have consonants and vowels. So when you have generally when you have a consonant at the end of the letter, end of the word, sorry, then it actually becomes part of the next word when you're pronouncing it. For example, yata, ya, vahito, vanir, instead of yata, hi, avahito, vanir, because the rhythm doesn't make sense if you do it like that. You understand? So it's yata, yavahito, so I see how I'm doing yata, ya, vahito, vanir. Okay. And then also the next line, where you have a V, which is a consonant, darush veka. So it's like you make it into one word. So darush veka is with yonishu instead of darush veka. Darush veka is with yonishu. Everyone understands that? Sanskrit. It's called sandhi. Anyway, in that way you have the rhythm there. Sorry, so a little bit of pronunciation, instruction. Let's continue. Yata, as much as. He, exactly like. Avahita, surcharged with. Vandi, fire. Darushu, in wood. Eka, one. Svadyunishu, the source of manifestation. Anana Eva, like different entities. Pati, illuminates. Vishvatma, the Lord as Paramatma. Bhuteshu, in the living entities. Ja, and. Tata, in the same way. Puman, the absolute person. Translation. The Lord as Supersoul pervades all things just as fire permeates wood. And so he appears to be of many varieties, although he is the absolute one, without a second. So purport, by his divine grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Lord Vasudeva, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, by one of his plenary parts, expands himself all over the material world, and his existence can be perceived even within the atomic energy. Matter, antimatter, proton, neutron, etc., are all different effects of the Paramatma feature of the Lord. As from wood, fire can be manifested, or as butter can be churned out of milk, so also the presence of the Lord as Paramatma can be felt by the process of legitimate hearing and chanting of the transcendental subjects, which are especially treated in the Vedic literatures like the Upanishads and Vedanta. Srimad Bhagavatam is the bona fide explanation of these Vedic literatures. the Lord can be realized through the oral reception of the transcendental message, and that is the only way to experience the transcendental subject. As fire is kindled from wood by another fire, the divine consciousness of man can similarly be kindled by another divine grace. His divine grace, the spiritual master, can kindle the spiritual fire from the wood-like living entity by imparting proper spiritual messages injected through the receptive ear. Therefore, one is required to approach the proper spiritual master with the receptive ears only, and thus divine existence is gradually realized. The difference between animality and humanity lies in this process only. A human being can hear properly, whereas an animal cannot. So again, the verse. Yatayava hito vanir darushveka svayonishu nadeva vati vishvatma bhuteshu chat tatapuman. So Omagadata Manandasha Gananjana Shlakya Yagsur Lilitanyena Tasmai Shigurve Namaha. So again in this verse, we are hearing the Paramatma described, and we went over yesterday many verses from the 13th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, and also the 18th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, one verse, and also from the 15th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita. So we're going to talk about specifically the 15th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita verse, wherein Krishna says, Matat Pratir Jnanam Aponam Cha, that Sarvasya Chaham Risanavishto Matat Smitir Jnanam Aponam Cha, Vedai Starsavaya Ami Vedu Panantakrid Vedavid Eva Chaham, which is actually a really important verse. So, anyway, so Krishna gives intelligence, remembrance, and forgetfulness. So what is intelligence? That's really interesting. So intelligence, of course, in this world is one of the subtle material elements. You have the gross material elements, which are called Pancha Mahabhuta: earth, water, fire, air, and ether. Those are the gross elements, the elements that we can perceive with our external senses. And then you have the subtle elements: mind, intelligence, and false ego, or ego. So the intelligence is very interesting because it's the connection with the supersoul. Wow. Like Prabhupada sometimes say, the intelligence is this close to the soul, or the intelligence is the form direction of the supersoul. Very interesting. So as we mentioned yesterday, according to one's desire, one gets a specific type of intelligence. So how to differentiate between the mind and the intelligence? Okay, that's really important. Because not simply theoretically, but on a practical basis, how do we tell something is coming from our mind, and how can we tell that something's coming from the intelligence? And how can we tell if the intelligence is misdirecting us because of our impure motive? These are different questions we need to answer. So, first of all, what is the mind's business? The mind's business is to accept and reject things like on the spur of the moment or right now. For example, let's say you see something, let's say you're taking a japa walk and you see some stool on the street. Then immediately you reject it. That's the mind. I'm not saying it's good to reject it. I'm not saying it's bad. Actually, it's good. You shouldn't accept it. You get out of the way. Or if you smell some nice thing being cooked somewhere, then the mind immediately accepts that. So that's accepting and rejecting, based upon momentary or temporary interactions with the material energy, accepting and rejecting. Of course, the subtle things you accept and reject too. So that's the mental platform. Sometimes you find people who are very much on the mental platform. In other words, they're always accepting, rejecting things. But the intelligence is different than that. Intelligence is basically your long-term or even medium-term goals. Like, what do you want to achieve? Of course, for most people, they're in the mode of ignorance, so they just follow the mind. But those in the mode of passion and the mode of goodness, they follow the intelligence. Therefore, they are, according to Krishna in the Bhagavad Gita, where he describes determination, like determination in the mode of ignorance never goes beyond what? Dreaming, procrastination, like that. Putting off for tomorrow what you can do today. But determination in the mode of passion is what? Determination in the mode of passion is one that becomes very fixed upon some goal, some fruitive goal. And then in goodness, one is actually fixed upon the yoga practices or principles in the mode of goodness. So both passion and goodness, there is actually a great influence of the intelligence. Whereas in ignorance, there's basically very little influence by the intelligence other than just the mind, just being influenced by the mind. So, anyway, so the intelligence, using the intelligence, we have these long-term or medium-term goals, things that we want to accomplish, and therefore we tend to ignore the mind's accepting and rejecting things. Let's say someone wants to give a practical example for a devotee. Let's say, I want to be Krishna conscious. That's my long-term goal. That's my intelligent goal. And so therefore, I may be very tired in the morning, but still I'll push myself through and not give in to the mind, because the mind may be saying, you should go to sleep. You should sleep through Mangalarti. You can chant your rounds later. So many things the mind might tell you. But you have this long-term goal of becoming Krishna conscious. So that's described by Krishna in the Gita, the second chapter, text 41. Vyavasayatmika buddhir ekeha kudunandana. So it's those who are on this path, in other words, those who are actually on the Krishna conscious path and progressing, their intelligence is one. Vyavasayatmika buddhir, there's that word buddhir. You understand? Buddhi. Buddhi is intelligence. Mana is mind. So, Vyavasayatmika buddhir ekeha. Ekeha. It means eke. Their intelligence is one. And those who are not really on the path, or those who are not making progress, bahu shaktas tmanantas cha, etc. And then later in verse 43, you have the reason why they're really not following their intelligence in Krishna consciousness. Bhogaishvarya prasaktanam tayaya pritachetasam vyavasayatmaka buddhir samadho navadhyate. Because they're very attached to just enjoying the senses. Bhoga. Bhoga means enjoyment. Aishvarya, they want some opulence. Prasaktanam, they're very attached to it. Tayaya pritachetasam, the mind cannot be fixed. Or the consciousness, cetasa, can also mean consciousness, cannot be fixed. And vyavasatmika buddhir samadho navadhyate, they cannot remain focused like this. So, therefore, in Krishna consciousness, we should be functioning on the intelligence platform. And that's why Krishna consciousness is often called, in the Bhagavad Gita, as buddhi yoga, the yoga of intelligence, because you have this goal in mind, and therefore you fix yourself on that goal. You have this, again, Sanskrit word, sankalpa. Just like yesterday, there was a marriage here, which I didn't go to, thank God. And at the beginning of the marriage, they do a sankalpa. You know what sankalpa? It means the intention, where you are, what you're going to do, what you're hoping to accomplish. Of course, in the marriages, it's a little bit more complex than that. You say it's the time of the year, time of the cycle of the month, where the country you're in, etc. You're going to get so-and-so Patel married to so-and-so Patel, like that. So that's what was happening last night. So anyway, so that's called the sankalpa. So having a sankalpa in one's life is very important in order to remain steady in devotion. Nishtha. Just like you have these different stages in devotional service. Ado Shraddha Sarvasangota Bhajana Kriya. In the beginning there is a little interest or a little preliminary faith. You associate with the devotees. You begin to execute Krishna consciousness. You anartha nivritti. You work on getting rid of the anarthas. The anarthas are actually things that come in from the mind, misdirected intelligence. Kama, krodha, mada, matsarya, parya, bhaya, lust, anger, greed, illusion, envy, fear. So, and then after that you become nishtha. So nishtha means you're on the intelligence platform. Nishtha 24/7, 365 and 366 on leap year, right? You don't get a day off. So that's the intelligence platform. So yes, nishtha. And so how do we achieve this? Again, sankalpa. But how do we get our proper sankalpa? This also relates to the whole super soul example here, super soul narration, which Prabhupada relates this to, that we have to approach the external manifestation of the super soul, who is the spiritual master. The spirit, because otherwise we won't know what our goal is. We won't know the methodology. We don't know the sajja is the goal. We won't know the sadhana, the methodology for achieving that goal. And we won't even know what's good for us. Natevadhu swarta gatim hi Vishnu, durashaya yebahi rarta, manina, andar yatanda, rupanina manas, tevi shatantra, urudamni bada. That's the mental platform. You understand? Natevadhu swarta gatim hi Vishnu. Because we don't know without this proper guidance, and right now, we are not really able to distinguish what the super soul is telling us and what our mind is telling us, right? Just like sometimes I'm speaking to Christian people, and they said, Jesus in my heart, and he's telling me what to do. And I said, why did Jesus tell you to go to the bar last night? Obviously, Jesus did not tell him to go to the bar. Jesus told him to go to church or, chant Hare Krishna or something. So, of course, then I get very funny, and I said, Jesus is now telling you to chant Hare Krishna. And they don't like that. So anyway, so in order to, what is that? Oh, yeah. That the Tevatu Swartigatim Hi Vishnu, those who do not know what the purpose of life is, cannot understand what the super soul is saying to them. Durashaya Yebihi Ararta Manina, they're on the mental platform. And Andaryatandar, they're accepting as leaders, first of all, their mind, and then other people's minds. Andaryatandar, it's like a blind person leading another blind person, and they both fall into a ditch. So it's a very interesting verse. And so, therefore, we need to approach the spiritual master. And also we need to understand who is a proper spiritual master. And Prabhupada here indicates the proper spiritual master is he who is repeating the words of the Vedic literatures. But the point is, which Vedic literatures? Which is an interesting point. I mean, I saw a video the other day. Someone was talking about Dharma, and he was a filmmaker, and he says, my Dharma is to make films. Because he was talking to so many people who had an improper understanding about what Dharma is. Because what is your Dharma? What is your Swadharma? Jivera Swarupahoy, Bir Krishna Das. That's your Dharma. And of course the Varnashram Dharma, that's another thing. So there's many different Vedic injunctions, and most of them are quite bewildering. Trigunya Vishaya Veda, Nishtrigunya Bhavarjana. Nirdvandvo Niryasakrasto Niryovik Atmavan, as Krishna says to Arjuna. Most of them are meant for dealing with the three modes of material nature. Like Prabhupada here talks about different Vedic literatures, like, of course you have the Rig Veda, Tarva Veda, Sama Veda, like this, and then you have the Upanishads, and then you have the Vedanta Sutra, of course, then you have the Puranas, and you have the Itihasas, and all this is a bewildering array of different literatures, most of which deal with the modes of nature. Even the Mahabharata, it's very difficult to ascertain the absolute truth by reading or hearing the Mahabharata, unless you just concentrate on the Bhagavad Gita, which is part of the Mahabharata. So it's very, very difficult, and therefore Vyasadeva was chastised by his own spiritual master, Narada Muni, that you have not really pointed out directly the service of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So therefore, one needs to find someone, a spiritual master, who knows the purport or conclusion of the Vedic literatures. As Krishna says, getting back to 15:15 in the Gita, Vedanta Krit Veda Ved Eva Chaham. I am to be known by the Vedas. People don't know that. This one film I was watching was a report on Hinduism. It said, Hindus have many gods. There is, and they were showing pictures of all the different demigods and everything like that. Even had Krishna there, which was all right. And even there was a temple in India, Hinduism temple, where there was worshipping rats. And even the other day I was informed, either day or the year I was informed that there's a temple in which they worship Donald Trump. So it's a misunderstanding about Hinduism, or, of course, Hinduism really doesn't mean anything anyway. So, but Krishna is what's to be the person or the thing or whatever to be known. Vedanta Vid, Veda Krit. So, Vedanta Krit, Veda Vid. I'm to be known, and I'm the knower of the Vedic literatures. So there's a clear statement there. So one must approach a guide, a spiritual master, who is aware of that conclusion and can properly present that conclusion and can properly present the methodology. And then you can understand what the super soul is saying to you. But then one has to take the words of the spiritual master as his life and soul. That's Vyavasayatmaka Buddhir Ekeha Gurunandana. And so what does that mean? That means not that the spiritual master will give you detailed instructions as to what to do 24/7 in your life. It's not that you contact them. Guru Maharaj, what should I eat for breakfast? You know, because you won't like it if he tells you anyway. But nobody asks me that question because they're afraid. But anyway, so not that you need detailed information, but you need to know the purpose of a spiritual master's mission. Like Rupa Goswami, he was able to fill out, he had instruction from Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu for a few weeks, 10 days actually. And he was able to fill out this whole philosophy that we hear in the Nectar of Instruction, Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, the Nectar of Devotion, and the Ujjvala Nilamani. He was able to fill out the whole rasa theology based upon Sri Chaitanya Mano Bhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale, his understanding of Lord Chaitanya. So in other words, we have to hear from the spiritual master and then be able to ascertain what does the spiritual master want, or what would he want if he was here. It's not that we can send him text messages about everything. What do you want? And that is the disciples, the one who knows Mano Bhishtam, the intention, the mission of the spiritual master. So as far as Srila Prabhupada, who is actually our ultimate Siksha Guru of everybody in the Krishna consciousness movement, what is Prabhupada's intention? What does Prabhupada want for his devotees? Of course, first of all, he wants us to chant 16 rounds, Father Glory, obviously. But what is his intention for his movement? What is the mission statement for his movement? I know Prabhupada wrote some mission statement stuff, but I'm talking about overall. What is the purpose? And the purpose, of course, is interesting, is more, I can put it very succinctly, more devotees, happier devotees. And everything else basically is a strategy. By happier devotees, I mean more Krishna conscious devotees, not just silly happy. You know, you could say I'm happy and just be laughing and giggling all the time. Like this morning I woke up and there were drunk people outside my room. Not devotees, you know, then in back, and there were a bunch of drunk girls, and they go, hey. That's not happy. That's intoxicated. That's ignorance. Like that. So, happy devotees means deeper Krishna. So Prabhupada wanted more devotees who are deeper in their Krishna consciousness. And then everything else is a strategy to accomplish that. You know, the book distribution is a strategy. The deity worship is a strategy. The opening up temples is a strategy. And like Prabhupada said, utility is the principle. In these four different things that descriptions of Prabhupada's mission. Books are the basis. Purity is the force, isn't it? Utility is the principle. Preaching is the essence. So, you know, you can see. So if we understand that, you know, Prabhupada's books are the basis. Because Prabhupada has actually churned out the Amrit, the nectar in the Vedic literatures, from the Bhagavatam, Bhagavad Gita. I mean, Prabhupada's words are so nectarian. It's unbelievable. Like yesterday I was listening, every morning I listen to one of Prabhupada's classes while I'm doing my deity worship. Just simple things, like Prabhupada was describing the soldiers in the Battle of Kurukshetra. First chapter of Bhagavad Gita, Prabhupada was giving a class. And Prabhupada was saying, why do we have to hear these names of all these people? who are fighting in the battle, what is the connection to Krishna? And Prabhupada said, because they're connected to Krishna, therefore it's spiritual to hear their name, because they're connected to Krishna Katha. So it's just so enlivening to hear Prabhupada's words. So anyway, so the point is that if we concentrate on what Prabhupada wanted, then everything falls into line. If we have that one point in intelligence, how to accomplish more devotees, happier devotees, and of course that includes ourselves, we should also become happier and more Krishna conscious, then all strategies fall into place. And then we're connected to Super Soul. And then we become Krishna conscious very, very quickly. So anyway, we'll leave it at that. So anyone have any questions or comments? Questions, comments? Yeah. In other words, the purpose is not to build temples. Building temples is for the purpose of bringing people to Krishna consciousness. And if it doesn't bring people to Krishna consciousness, then you don't build a temple. Simple as that. It brings more people by building a restaurant, build a restaurant. So strategy has to be taken up in accordance with the goal of the Acharya. So, yeah, somebody have a question.
Maharaj, at the time of death,
don't remind me.
subtle body, mind, intelligence, and false ego.
Yeah.
Usually gets transferred, but if we go back to the spiritual world, does the subtle body, do we give up the material subtle body?
Yeah, actually, this is an interesting point. Lord Kapila Deva describes that by the process of devotional service, the material subtle body gets dissolved, even while you're alive. And you get Shuddhahavi Mana, Kabe Hama Hi Rava Shri Vrindavana. Even your mind becomes spiritualized, because our real ego is there, our real mind is there, and the intelligence fixed on the direction of Super Soul is there, but right now it's covered. So what we're perceiving right now, this material mind intelligence and false ego, is the covering of the actual mind intelligence and false ego of the self. It's the covering. So for your ego, let's say ego. Ego just means sense of identity. So but we have a false ego in which we have a false sense of identity. We think like Sumukh is thinking, I'm 55, I'm retired, I'm healthy, I'm strong, got the whole world in my hands. So this is a false ego. He's thinking, honey, bhutani gachanti yamalayam. Everyone else will die, but not me. Guru Maharaj is old, but I'm not going to get old like him. So this is ahankara. Ahankara vimudatma kartahamiti manite. So because of that, that's a covering. That's not really the ego. That's the covering of the real ego. The real ego is, Jivera Swarupahoy Nitya Krishna Das. Gopi Bharta Pada Kamala. Dasa 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 Anudas. I'm a servant. That's all. Das. Lord Kapila Deva describes that even while one is alive, that's called Jivan Mukta. Even while you're alive. And therefore you have these devotees like Rupa Goswami, who is really identifying himself, his ego. He's an ego, because without an ego, you wouldn't be a living entity. His ego is, I'm Rupa Manjari. So that's Jivan Mukta. So we're seeing him externally in his sadhaka aspect. Oh, there's Rupa Goswami. Of course, we're not seeing him. but let's say you were. So there's Rupa Goswami, when he's thinking, I'm Rupa Manjari. You understand? He's not identified with this. He understands that this is his goal, this is his role. When a devotee who has realized his eternal spiritual nature, he doesn't identify with the role he has. He said, this is my service for Krishna. Like, okay, let's say temple president or something like that. So a devotee who has realized their internal spiritual relationship with Krishna doesn't think that they're temple president, or doesn't think that they're guru. One thinks they're guru, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur said, that person is guru. So, like I have to be thinking, for example, if I have this role, it's a role that I'm playing for Krishna. That's all. I've been given this particular role in Krishna's drama, Leela, maybe Leela. Hopefully it's Krishna's Leela, not Maya's Leela. But, we've been given this role to play, but my real identity is something else. And that's really what happens when one becomes Krishna conscious, even in this lifetime. They identify what their real identity is, and their real minds, as I mentioned before, Shuddha Havi Mana, they have a purified mind, Kabe Hama Hirava, Vrindava. Their mind is Vrindava. Mind and intelligence. And their intelligence is always fixed upon Krishna's direction. Does that make sense? So,
once it's dissolved, that's it. You can't.
Once it's dissolved, that's it. Or you just come back to the material world to serve. One of the two. Once your false ego is dissolved, under Yoga Maya, you can have if you're taking part in one of Krishna's pastimes, then Yoga Maya may cause you to have an apparent false ego. Like Arjuna was thinking, these are my cousin brothers. That's false identification. But that's not really false ego, that's Yoga Maya, getting him to play a particular role. But, false ego is something that continues. Like, I am this, and I really believe it. But the business of the spiritual master, like Krishna was able to awaken Arjuna, that your business is as a servant, rather than being attached to your family relationships like that. Rather than thinking you're a member of a particular family, and this person is your grandfather, this person is your etc. Yeah, once it's gone, Haribol. But for most of us, it's not gone. So that's pretty, as we say, pretty hypothetical. Which is gone is gone. I won't ask if anyone here is false ego is gone completely. Because even if it was, they wouldn't answer out of humility, they would say that. Okay. I think we have to end. I hear the bell is calling us. Okay, all glory is to His divine grace, Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Krishna Krishna
Bhakti Vedanta
Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda ki jai, Namacharya Haridas Thakur ki jai, Friends say the whole Sri Krishna Chaitanya, Prabhu Nityananda Shivaya Radha, Shivasati Gaur Bhakta Vrinda ki jai, Sri Sri Radhakrishna Gopa Govanath Sayama Kunda, Radhakunda Giri Govardhan ki jai, Vrindavanam ki jai, mature.